So I'm super glad that you're joining me today once again. If you saw my previous video, you would know where we are generally. So this is still the Lal Kuan neighborhood of Old Delhi or Shahjahanabad, and this lane that we've entered is a very historical lane of the Lal Kuan neighborhood. The lane is called Gali Qasim Jan, and it's actually named after a very famous man. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's take this turn off Gali Qasim Jan and we'll get into a little bit of quiet to talk more about Qasim Jan. So I think, as it would seem to a lot of native Hindi speakers or Urdu speakers, Qasim Jan seems like a person who would have been a woman, but that would be a gross misunderstanding of the name. Qasim Jan was actually a person of Iranian origin who used to live in Lahore for a large part of his life until in the 1700s he decided to come to the great city, at that time Mughal city of Delhi, also called Shahjahanabad, and he lived right on that lane that we walked from. Right there. So that's why the lane is called Gali Qasim Jan. And these days there's another very significant person who has made this lane famous, and we'll talk about the person. So do you already notice a slight difference in this video as compared to the other ones? So one major difference is that we are late today, you are late today, and I am late today. That's why we see a lot more humans and a lot more activity along Gali Qasim Jan. Not a lot of activity there. I wish I was there, and I wish you could be there as well, in the quiet, away from the humans. I think sometimes it's good to be away from a lot of humans. But anyways, Gali Qasim Jan these days is famous because of one of the most famous poets that India has produced over the last few hundred years. And I know a lot of you already know who the poet is. It's Mirza Ghalib, and today's video will actually climax at his Haveli. So now this is some more history. If you notice, the name in front of this lane is Fatak Nawab Loharu. Loharu was actually one of the princely states of India before independence, and it was a part of the present day Punjab, and the king or the Nawab of Loharu actually had a Haveli in this area. That's why this lane, which I think is roughly close to where the Haveli used to be, is called Nawab Loharu Lane, and the entrance, which is right there, is called Fatak Nawab Loharu. And one more very interesting trivia, if you want to hear. Do you want to hear? So one more very interesting trivia that I got to know just now is that this area was also the in-laws house for Mirza Ghalib. So his wife used to live here and she grew up here, and even Mirza Ghalib, the famous poet, spent some time right here. So this is like Mirza Ghalib ki sasural, as they say in Hindi. So yeah, if you have an eye for it, you'll find that there's so much interesting history here in Old Delhi at almost every other corner. And the unfortunate thing is that over the last 300, 350, almost 400 years, we've let this history degrade, and we've neglected it. We haven't really taken any care of it. That's why these areas don't really look even a fraction of their past selves anymore. And I just hope somehow we can take care of these places and bring them back to their past glory. So yeah, while we've been talking, we've also been trying to enter this very narrow and interesting lane.
नहीं, thank you.
There you go. I'm sure there's some history going on here as well. And it's just amazing how narrow and how intriguing these places are. So that person who was showing us that narrow lane, the narrow dark lane, in contrast to the bright sun that we see here, that person was actually really nice and really warm. As you probably heard, he was showing us around and he was even offering us tea or a cold drink. And that's, I think, the distinct character of Old Delhi, especially as compared to New Delhi. Alright, so we are continuing to explore this area, and I actually did not talk about the name of the whole area that we are in now. So while we started at Lal Kuan, we ended up at some point entering this area called Balli Maran via Gali Qasim Jan. So right now we are in the Balli Maran area, and this area is believed to have been an area which was inhabited by fishermen, and that's why the name Balli Maran. So here we are at our destination. This is Mirza Ghalib's Haveli. So unfortunately the Haveli is closed today, so we'll only be able to look at it from outside, and we'll only be able to talk about Ghalib, the famous poet. In fact, he's considered one of the best poets who ever lived, at least one of the best Urdu poets who ever lived, and his poetry is believed to be very logical yet very emotional, and it's also believed to be very complex. There you go. Had Ghalib written in English, he would have been the greatest of all times. So yeah, Mirza Ghalib, this is where he lived, and now it has been converted into a museum. And I think I've already spoken about him. He was born in the 1700s. He died in late 1700s. And in fact, Ghalib died on the 15th of Feb, which actually is super close to when you will be seeing this video. So yeah, that's a nice chance that the video will release close to Ghalib's death anniversary. And Ghalib is one of those poets who's become extremely famous even after his death, even so many years after his death. It's been more than 200 years since he died. And wow, look at that. That's another very pretty and grand Haveli on this road, in fact right across from Ghalib's Haveli. But yeah, Ghalib is still famous and he's still significant and relevant. And because Ghalib is so relevant even today, we kind of had to end our walk right at Ghalib's Haveli, or almost at Ghalib's Haveli. We are still generally in the same area. After Gali Qasim Jan ended, we took a turn and we've arrived at this place. But yeah, this is about it, and I hope you enjoyed this nice historical walk as well. So I'll catch you again. Bye.